Hi and welcome to section 2.3 for Econ 1 on the AQA exam board. What will we see today? Today we're going to be looking at cross-elasticity of demand with a focus on substitute goods. Let's first start with refreshing ourselves with the function of demand. Demand is a function of price, the price of other goods, income, taste, and expectations. Today we're going to be focusing on the price of other goods, and this results in a shift of the demand curve. So price is the only one that results in a movement along a demand curve, and all of the other factors cause a shift in the demand curve. Cross-elasticity of demand measures the responsiveness of demand for one good following a change in the price of another good. It is worked out using the following formula. Cross-elasticity of demand equals the percentage change in quantity demanded of good B divided by the percentage change in the price of good A. There are three types of relationships between two goods and services. One is substitutes, which we'll be looking at today. Another is complementary goods. And the final one is unrelated goods. So let's start with substitute goods. A substitute good is a good that can easily be consumed instead of consuming other goods, and the needs of the consumer will be fulfilled. An example would be Coke and Pepsi. Coke and Pepsi are substitutes because they are both cola flavoured drinks, and if Coke wasn't available at a bar, an individual would likely be happy with Pepsi. Another example is the sun and the mirror. We will be using the example of the Sun and the Mirror newspapers, and we're going to assume that the Sun increases their price. So here we have two markets with two different demand curves. The market on the left is for the Sun, and the market on the right is for the Mirror. The Sun will be good A, and the Mirror will be good B. Initially, the price for the Sun is P1, and this leads to a quantity demanded of Q1. For the mirror, the price is also P1, and this leads to a quantity demanded of Q1. The sun then increases their price from P1 to P2. This increase in price results in a movement along the demand curve, leading to a lower quantity being consumed. The change in the price for the sun is a change in the price of other goods for the demand curve of the mirror. As the sun has increased their price, the mirror is now seen as relatively cheap, and consumers will switch from consuming the sun to consuming the mirror. This causes an outward shift of demand from D1 to D2. At a price of P1, a greater quantity of the mirror will be consumed. The extent of the shift out in demand depends on the responsiveness of consumers, and we can measure the responsiveness of consumers by looking at the cross-elasticity of demand. Let's have a mathematical example. Suppose the sun originally cost 50p and they decided to raise their price to 55p. This price increase in the sun causes mirror sales to rise from 100,000 a day to 120,000 a day. We can work out the cross-elasticity of demand. The cross-elasticity of demand is worked out by doing the percentage change in quantity demanded of good B divided by the percentage change in price of good A. Here, good A is going to be the sun and good B is the mirror. So the percentage change in the price of good A is 10%. We do this by doing 55p, which is the new price, minus the old price, which is 50p, divided by the old price, and then times this by 100 to get a percentage. So it's 5 divided by 50 times 100, which gives you 10%. We can also work out the percentage change in quantity demanded for good B, which is the new sales figures, which is 120,000, minus the old sales figures, divided by the old sales figures, times by 100. Which is 20,000 divided by 100,000, which gives you a value of 20%. So cross elasticity of demand is 20% divided by 10%, which equals 2. A positive value for cross elasticity of demand indicates that these two goods are substitutes. If rather than a price increase of the sun there was a price decrease of the sun, we would still expect a positive figure for cross elasticity of demand. This is because the decrease in the price of the sun would cause the demand curve for the mirror to shift inwards, as consumers will switch from consuming the mirror to consuming the relatively cheaper sun. This would mean that there'll be a decrease in the quantity demanded of good B, which is the sun, and a decrease in the price of good A, which is the mirror. And a negative divided by a negative will give you a positive. Therefore, we'll have a positive value for cross elasticity of demand, indicating that these two goods are substitute goods. We can have close and weak substitute goods. Close substitutes are more responsive to a change in price. A small increase in price would result in a larger increase in demand for the other good. Petrol could be an example. Because petrol is a homogeneous good, consumers do not generally care which company they buy petrol from. So if BP decided to raise their price of petrol, then car owners would switch from consuming petrol from BP and instead buy their petrol from Shell or Sainsbury's or Texaco. Close substitutes will have a high value for cross elasticity of demand. This is because a small increase in the price of one good results in a large increase in demand for the substitute good. We also have weak substitute goods. These have a positive but low value for cross elasticity of demand. A larger increase in the price of A will only result in a small increase in the demand of B. This would be the case when there is strong brand loyalty for certain brands, and you would only switch from consuming the brand that you prefer to another brand that is cheaper if the price increase in the brand you love was fairly significant. We can draw a diagram that plots the price of good A against the quantity demanded of good B. I have drawn two of these diagrams below for close and weak substitutes. As these goods are substitutes, we have a positive value of cross elasticity of demand, and this is why the graph curves are upward sloping. The gradient of the slope tells us how responsive the quantity demanded of good B is when there is a change in the price of A. The diagram on the left is for close substitutes. These would have a high value for cross elasticity of demand. A small increase in the price of A results in a large increase in the quantity demanded of good B. This is because these substitutes are very close, and consumers are happy to switch from consuming the good that is now more expensive to consuming the relatively cheaper good, which is good B. The diagram on the right is for weak substitutes. With weak substitutes, the same increase in the price from P1 to P2 results in a small increase in the quantity demanded of good B. If you compare Q1 to Q2 for close substitutes, there is a large increase, and Q1 to Q2 for weak substitutes, there is only a small increase in quantity demanded. So the closer the substitutes are, the flatter this curve will be, but still upward sloping, and the weaker these substitutes are, the steeper the line will be, but it will still be positive because these are substitute goods.